Hello there and welcome to this week's edition of Creative Critique. Now the newly released, theatrically released film that I've been to see this week is the newest film within the X-Men series of films, and that film is of course X-Men Apocalypse, with returning director of course Bryan Singer, who directed the last installment in the series, X-Men Days of Future Past, which got such critical rave reviews and quite a big audience reaction to it. So here we are. Yes, I'm going to start off by stating the returning cast and then go into a little bit of the initial plot of the film. I won't go into too much of the plot because there is too much going on to effectively talk you through it. So I will then give my opinions on certain aspects of the film. So, like I say, there's a significant returning cast from obviously James McAvoy as Professor Xavier, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, Nicholas Hoult as Beast. We have Lucas Till returning as Havoc, and we have significant new roster of mutants or cast, if you will. Oh, I forgot also that Rose Byrne returns in her CIA agent role, Moira Taggart, returning for the first time since X-Men First Class. So yeah, like I say, there's a significant new cast involved. Oh no, sorry, again, Evan Peters returns very quickly as Quicksilver, who he pretty much had a wonderful significant scene cameo in Days of Future Past, but here he makes most of every moment of his screen time again. So he returns here as Quicksilver. And I'm now going to the new cast, who involves the likes of Ty Sheridan, who plays a young Cyclops, Sophie Turner, who plays a young Jean Grey, and we also have the likes of Cody Smit-McPhee, who plays a young Nightcrawler. And we have, in terms of other significant new members of the cast, is playing Psylocke is Olivia Munn, playing Angel, Ben Hardy, and playing effectively our main bad guy, a big bad Apocalypse himself, is the really wonderful Oscar Isaac. And I'm using the really wonderful Oscar Isaac in that term of phrase because it's a shame we didn't see much of that in this film, but I'll go into that a bit later in the film, in the review. So like I say, we've got quite a significantly big cast. So there's always going to be that problem of juggling that number of characters. Now, I'll go into a little bit of the plot to start off with. So we have to start ourselves off in ancient Egypt, where a being who is Apocalypse transforms himself into another body of somebody who is also another mutant. He's an individual who is able to transfer himself from body to body, acquiring their powers and therefore acquiring just great power in general. He's obviously seen as a god in ancient Egypt, but probably so much so that he is a problem. He's effectively they effectively try and stop him in ancient Egypt. He gets effectively caved in a pyramid where he is then left dormant for thousands and thousands of years. We broke to, well, say modern day 1980s, where we meet our returning cast in their own different places, including the likes of McAvoy, Fassbender and Lawrence, who really are our three principal players, aren't they? All in different situations, in different areas of work and life. Effectively, what of course brings them all back together again is the emergence of this Apocalypse character. Now, I'm going to go generally into what I liked about the film first of all. So I'm going to say throughout stuff. There's stuff that's really entertaining and well done. There's stuff that's pretty damn average, and there's also stuff where they've completely missed a trick. So it's completely understandable why it appears that there's been such a middling critical reaction to the film. Because it took me a little while here to actually go and see it, and maybe that's in part why. Because I did like the trailer, the stuff in it I really liked, but for something in terms of getting me out off my arse effectively and going to see the film, it took about it took a week, which is usually for a very big film. It took me about 10 days, and usually it should take me not that long to go see this sort of film. So now, I'll go straight to the young cast, because I thought they were one of the best aspects of the film. So Sophie Turner was great as Jean Grey. I thought she gave some nice depth, if limited, to that character. And I also like the performance of Ty Sheridan and Cody Smit-McPhee, as Nightcrawler in particular gets some of both Cyclops and Nightcrawler particularly Nightcrawler though, gets some of the funniest and most enjoyable lines in the film, and set pieces in a way. Nightcrawler, particularly the funny moments. Wonderful makeup on the part of Nightcrawler again. Also, there's wonderful makeup in the return of Mystique as well. So there's a lot of blue guys going around in this film, which is one significant joke going on in the film, which is great. I'm blue. I've already said previously, Evan Peters was just wonderful again as Quicksilver, and he kind of steals every scene he's in. He pretty much nails every line of dialogue and every action sequence. And there's a particular action sequence that is just fabulous, and catches the essence of that character, I would hope to think. I'm not a massive comic fan, so I'm not entirely sure, but he seems to maybe encapsulate the fun of that character, and really proves to Marvel. One of the few things Marvel have got wrong is what a waste they made of their interpretation of that character in Avengers Age of Ultron. You know, if you've seen that film, you'll know why I'm saying that. So yeah, the Xavier Magneto dynamic is always entertaining to watch, and it's mainly because of the work of James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. Certain aspects are left sort of untouched regarding it, and you kind of feel a little bit shortchanged in certain aspects. And you certainly do feel shortchanged in terms of Jennifer Lawrence's performance, only because although she has glimpses of that sort of Hunger Games pivotal heroine, they are all too fleeting, those moments. Yeah. And that can also be said for the likes of Nicholas Hoult, who pretty much is hardly given anything to do, which is unfortunate. And because I've said that, I'm going to a little bit of the negatives here, really, aren't I now? And that is affected because a lot of the characters kind of fall by the wayside. So, namely the horsemen of the film, Storm, the stuff going on there you kind of want to see more of, but don't get anything of. Angel, who literally does so, fall by the wayside. And Psylocke, although I can't particularly fault Olivia Munn, I am a bit of a fan of Olivia Munn. I am shallow in that aspect. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. There's certainly a bit of mutant overload in play. And really, I mean, again, Rose Byrne, she could really have not been in the film, and you kind of would not have even noticed she wasn't in it, which is awful, isn't it? And the villain of the piece, like I said, Oscar Isaac at the beginning of this review, I felt, despite his best efforts, really, his villain does seem a bit generic, and he kind of does get a little bit lost underneath all that makeup, which is, again, it's something you can break from, but he just seems to, I don't know, there's just something in that to me. Yeah, there we go. I also felt a particular character death moment in the film was handled wrongly, and I felt it should have been utilised to greater and more emotional effect, because although there was small amounts of it used okay, the fact that you didn't see something or see a particular instance of that moment kind of made you lose the emotion and the effect of that whole moment, and it should have been a lot more important, and like I say, a lot more emotional to you and to me and the audience. I don't think it was properly done, personally. And let's just go out. Spoiler alert. If you've seen the trailer, it won't be much of it will not be a spoiler. But if you've not, stop watching. Which probably won't be hard, as you're probably asleep already from watching this review. But if you've not seen the trailer and you've not seen this film, do not continue to listen to me now, because I'm about to spoil a particular character introduction to the film. And I will go straight into now. Enough time has passed, I think, hasn't it? Enough time has passed, right? Right. What was the point of that Wolverine moment? What was the point of it? It should have been an awesome moment, but I just felt deflated after watching it. And like I said, it's partially because I knew what it was going to occur, thanks to the bloody trailer. But itself, just his actual utilisation at that moment in the film just seemed disappointing in a way. That's what you used him for? Really? Wasted. It was a waste of his time and ours, Hugh Jackman's. So disappointing, that moment for me personally. And I think that sort of moment in a cinema screen should have created a bit of euphoria, and it didn't. I felt nothing of it with the audience I was watching it with, and it was a significantly large audience. It's not like it was a small audience who weren't that into it. It's clearly a decently sized and quite a variety of people in the audience, I noticed. So it should have created some sort of buzz, and it didn't because it was not used right. He was not used right. So there we go. Like I said, I thought the makeup was genuinely well done, and the effects are very, very, very well done. And I do love all the costumes. Actually, they're very, very very visually got great visual flair. But there's something about it that is, yeah, I don't know. Overall, there's certainly, like I say, there's certainly stuff to enjoy about the film, young performances and certain characters. But there's equally enough to frustrate with the fact that there's so many characters that certain characters don't get any airing whatsoever, and you're kind of like, oh, they just pushed to one side and not given enough time to develop in any way. I know they're trying to build to other stuff, but there's always got to be that character balance where you know what I mean? There were significant characters within the film, but given nothing to do. Yeah, so if we're talking about where it stands in terms of the big superhero film team-ups this year, it's not as slick as, say, Captain America Civil War. Those sort of action set pieces were so much more enjoyable to watch. But it's certainly more intentionally fun. Intentionally funner than Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Because although, yes, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice was funny, it was not intentionally funny for many aspects of the film. Whereas this is intentionally fun and it's very, very entertaining in that aspect, particularly with the likes of Nightcrawler and Quicksilver. Yeah. So there we go. That's my X-Men Apocalypse review. I've not gone into many plot details. I've just gone into things I've liked about it generally. Because, like I say, there's just so much going on. It's kind of mutant overload. So, like I said, there's stuff to enjoy, but equally enough to frustrate. It's worth a watch, certainly, but you will take out particular instances of your own things that you want to take from the film. That made no sense, did it? So there we go. X-Men Apocalypse is my theatrically released film of the week. Now, my classic film of the week is a film that is also a Marvel comic book adaptation. So in a way, it could be either a comic book adaptation or a Marvel film special, if you will, in itself. The film itself is actually probably one of the few not superhero films adaptations. It's actually the film Blade from 1998. Now, late in the 90s, comic book films were in the absolute doldrums, weren't they? I mean, think about some of the terrible, terrible films that were coming out. Batman and Robin is the one that just pretty much killed everything at that moment in time, wasn't it? And numerous others like Spawn and things like that, and other terrible comic book films. Whereas Blade sort of came out with not much sort of bluster, and then sort of found an audience. Mainly because it was kind of unexpected, and it's an extremely violent adaptation of a comic book. And to be fair, for a film effectively that is based on a vampiric world, Blade effectively is a character played by in this film rather wonderful Wesley Snipes. He's wonderful to it. Watching this film, he is as they refer to as a daywog. He's actually a individual who is half human and half vampire. His mother was bit by a vampire while he was in the womb. She gave birth to him, and he eventually gained all their powers and strengths, so he's able to walk around in daylight, but still, so he hits none of their weaknesses, and he gets all their strengths, their power, and their agility, and things like that. So his mother died after childbirth, and then effectively he is found by a character played by Chris Christopherson called Whistler, who actually trains him and form an alliance of taking out these bloodsuckers, if you will. So yes, now it's very, very 90s. The film is very, very 90s. And at 2 hours, it could certainly be expected to be a little long, I will say. It was an unexpected financial success in terms of how much it cost, about $40 million to make, and it made just over 120 or 30 million, I think it was. So it's a resounding success on that part. So the story effectively focuses on a character played, I'll say, this night going around killing vampires, and there's a character played by Stephen Dorff who effectively wants to become a more powerful vampire. In doing so, he crosses paths with Blade, the eponymous Blade. Now, I always go to the stylistic points of the film because that is in part what is by far one of the best aspects of the film. And the fight sequences are truly, truly outstanding to watch and very, very inventive. That can't be said regarding the effects in place. Some of them, most certainly CGI effects, because this is obviously a film made on a small budget of $40 million. Yet they're trying to use CGI, and it has dated badly. There's no doubt about that. But the thing that makes the film so enjoyable to watch, like I say, is those fight sequences, the inventiveness of the fight sequences, like I say, the stylistically choices made in the film, and to be honest, the performance of the general cast, which although sometimes can be a little bit hammy, possibly, and particularly on the part of Stephen Dorff's villain character. Wesley Snipes is very enjoyable. He comes out with some wonderful quips. Well, I say wonderful, you can decide whether they're wonderful or terrible, but because they're terrible, they're kind of wonderful. And it just reeks of cool. It's a film that reeks of cool. It's directed by Stephen Norrington, who will go on to make a terrible film in many critics' eyes, in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and written by actually by David S. Goyer, who obviously recently written the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice film. So he's got some questionable writing credits under his name, and once again, this is got questionable dialogue in it, but it has got some pretty niche and quite cool dialogue in there as well. So, what is there to like other than that? I think it was a turning point in terms of the comic book adaptation that proved there is an audience for comic book films, and particularly an adult audience. Now, everyone's talking about recently how Deadpool is one of the best and one of the first to fully utilise the R rating of comic book adaptations. Blade did this in 1998. This is nothing new, and we saw Kick-Ass 5 years ago, and did nobody see that? So everyone going, "Oh my god, Deadpool is the is the most inventive R-rated film ever made, or the first to sort of probably utilise that aspect of it." It wasn't. It certainly done it extremely, extremely well, and it's a wonderful, wonderful film. But it is not the first to attempt this sort of appealing to a comic book audience, but for an adult audience as well. Blade does that wonderfully well. There's certain cliches involved in the film that are quite didn't really need that in there. There's certain plot aspects that are like, oh, I didn't really need that either. But like it sort of reeks of cool. Wesley Snipes is so enjoyable in the role, and to be honest, it's just a badass film, and it features one of the most badass opening scenes to a film ever. In my opinion, it's one of those I always remember when someone says to me, whenever the subject of best opening moments to a film or opening scenes to a film, that opening moment where an individual is being took to a club that he doesn't know is full of vampires, and that moment happens where the sprinklers come out and blood comes pouring down everybody. That is an awesome moment. That is a brilliant moment. Greatly enjoyable. Greatly enjoyable. Some really funny stuff in it, and some really kick-ass action, and features really one of the first uses really of bullet time before the Matrix. Matrix obviously majorly credited with bullet time, but there's a moment in this film that is very, very effective in terms of that, using that aspect of filmmaking and special effects. I really enjoy Blade. There's no doubt there's lots of flaws with it, but I think it's a fully enjoyable film to watch, and I think you should watch it as well. So there we go. That was kind of a comic book or Marvel adaptation special, if you will. So there we go. Those are my classic and theatrically released films of the week. I do hope you've enjoyed what I've had to say. I hope you do subscribe to me if you have enjoyed it, and I do hope to see and speak to you again very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.